So we're just adding in the additional supports that are required to support the shuttering when the concrete's being poured in and the weight is pushing out against it. There's probably a much better way of doing this, but as this is our first time, we had no idea, so we're sort of making it up on the fly. But what we did was we drove in fence posts, or stobs as they call it in Scotland, into the ground sort of a couple of foot away from the shuttering, and then we'd cut off the excess, and then we'd attach a triangular wedge to the top of the stob and then to the top of the shuttering and the bottom of the shuttering. And that'd be made up of 2x2s or 2x4s, kind of whatever we had lying around. And we were hoping that that would sort of stop any twisting or warping or bending. And we really had our fingers and toes crossed that this was going to be enough to support the concrete.
I'll keep going with planing slowly, but
Okay.
let me know when you need more wood doing.
Will do.
Is that nearly the last one on there?
Yeah, I'm just going to do one more up this bit.
And this was us finally closing the door on the shuttering, which was quite exciting to be at this point. Unfortunately, there was no good place to put in a stob into the ground to support the shuttering like we've done on the rest of it. Because anyone who's put a stob into the ground knows that working with rock and concrete, it's not a helpful medium. So instead, I'm just going to pile up this rubble that you can see here up against the back of the shuttering to support it. And with the very last additions of the shuttering in place, we can now focus on raking. So we need to rake out all the hardcore so that it's at the correct profiles, ready to accept concrete. And this has to be done at this stage because we're going to be tamping it shortly, and you want to get it as close to perfect as possible. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to actually shift without heavy machinery. Once you've then tamped it, the stuff compacts like it's basically concrete itself. So yeah, this is a lot of faff, but it's a job that definitely needs to be done, because if you do it right, you actually end up using less concrete, but the concrete's still just as strong as it needs to be. Annoyingly, the wind ruined this video, so I'm having to do a voiceover. The pads of hardcore are raked as they should be. The thickenings are raked as they should be. They're all at the right level, which is great. So they're now ready for tamping, rebar, and concrete.
So we've now tamped all the hardcore down, which is quite a satisfying stage to be at. I think all the shuttering is done. We might add in the odd bit here and there. Best to overdo it. We will find out if our overdoing has actually paid off. So also, Mum managed to get in the waving coil pipes, which we're using as our conduit for both water and electric. We will position these where they need to be exactly, to be just inside the wall rather than coming up under the wall or in the middle of the building, which would be unhelpful. We're doing a bit of smoothing out up here because this is where some of the vehicles are going to need to come to help load the concrete in. And at the moment this is just mud, so in an effort to dry this out, we had, let's get over here without sinking. We had previously dug this drainage ditch which runs kind of through the middle of it, and it then comes out there where that waving coil is. Unfortunately, there's still water coming in at the back of the site here, and it was just sort of dribbling over all of this, not helping any of it dry out. And so my hope is that in smoothing this out and creating a berm from there around to here, it's going to catch all the water and run down. As you can see, it is actually doing that. The water is getting caught, which is quite satisfying. And so this should dry out, and then we can do the pour. Obviously we need to cut the rebar mesh, which is sitting over there in that big pile.
Just adjusting the camber of the road because there's a slight list into the ditch, and as we've got the concrete trucks turning up shortly, we don't want any of them ending up in the ditch. And with the rebar that sits at the bottom of the thickenings cut to size and put in place, Dad's just going round and popping on the little plastic feet that hold it at the correct height. That's the groundwork prepped. That's us ready for concrete. The top layer of mesh that goes in, they're just chucked in as the concrete's being poured. Coming up in the next video though, the concrete truck arrives. Robert, our neighbouring farmer, turns up in his telehandler, and the concrete starts getting poured into the telehandler first and then out onto the site. So please consider subscribing and hitting the little notification bell next to the subscribe button to be notified when the next video comes out. See you in the next one.